All right, thanks, guys. The Texans take on the Bucs. 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff this Saturday. That is, like I said, a Saturday game. There's a triple header on Saturday. We have 3 games going on Saturday. Yeah, so anyway, Houston is the 2.5-point favorite on the road. Totals at 51. We saw a 1.5-point move toward the Texans. And we also saw movement downward on the total. The Texans open as the 1-point favorite, up to 2.5. Total open 53 down to 51. 71% are leaning Houston, 56% shaded toward the over. Right now, the Bucs are plus $1.30 on the money line. Now, Tampa Bay ranks in the bottom 5 in offensive rushing, bottom 3 in points allowed. And as a matter of fact, they've allowed 27 points or more in 8 out of their last 10 games. They're just 2-4 straight up at home, 0-6 against the spread in those 6 games, really struggling to cover the number at home. They also rank in the bottom 3 in pass yards allowed. Now, Houston on the other side, winners in 3 out of their last 4. They've also won 70% of their games in their last 10. They rank in the top 10 in scoring, top 10 in offensive yards per play. They're also 4-3 straight up when traveling, 5-2 against the spread in those 7 games. 2 out of Houston's last 3 did get over the total. Meanwhile, Tampa Bay, 9-1 to the over in their last 10. That's good for 90%. I'm going to lean toward the road dog in this one. Give me Houston minus 2.5 and the over 51 in that game. Next matchup, Bills taking on the Patriots, 4:30 Eastern kickoff this Saturday. The Pats are the 6.5-point favorite at home, total 38 and a hook. We saw a 0.5-point move toward New England and movement downward on the total. The Patriots opened 6, up to minus 6.5. Total open 39, down to 38 and a hook. 65% are leaning Buffalo, 69% shaded toward the under. Right now, the Bills are plus 240 on the money line. Now, Buffalo is really, really good against the number. They're 6-1 against the spread in their last 7. They're also a perfect 7-0 against the spread when traveling this year. They rank in the top 5 in rushing, top 3 in points allowed, top 5 in yards allowed per play. Now, this Buffalo squad, obviously, we all know their defense is just impenetrable, and they've held their opponents to 20 points or less in 6 out of their last 7 games. They rank in the top 10 in road rushing, top 3 in rush yards allowed on the road as well. Meanwhile, New England, on the other side, losers in 2 out of their last 3. They're also just 1-3 against the spread in their last 4. Now, typically, they're very good covering at home, but as far as this year goes, they're just 3-3 against the number at Gillette Stadium. They also rank in the bottom 10 in yards allowed per... they're ranking in the bottom 10 in offensive yards per play. Now, total-wise, 67% of New England's home games did stay under the total. They're also 9-5 to the under overall for the season. Meanwhile, 4 out of Buffalo's last 4 games all stayed under the number. They are 6-1 to the under when traveling. I'm going to purchase the 0.5 point, buy it up, and lean Buffalo plus 7 and the under 38.5 in that game. Next matchup, Rams taking on the Niners, 8:15 Saturday night. The Niners are the 6.5-point favorite at home, total 45 and a hook. We saw a 0.5 point fade of San Fran and movement downward on the total. The Niners open 7, down to 6.5. Total open 46.5, down to 45 and a hook. 67% are leaning San Fran, 57% shaded toward the under. And right now the Rams are plus 225 on the money line. Now the Rams are 2-1 straight up in their last 3, 5-3 against the spread in their last 8. The Rams rank in the top 10 in passing, top 10 in yards allowed per play. They're 9-5 against the spread overall for the year, 5-2 ATS on the road. They rank in the top 3 in road passing, and they're in the top 5 in yards allowed per play on the road as well. Now San Fran on the other side, losers in 2 out of their last 3. They're also just 3-4 against the spread in their last 7. The Niners rank 21st in rush yards allowed, 17th in home passing. They failed to cover in 3 out of their 6 home games this year, and they rank 20th in rush yards allowed at home. Now, 2 out of San Fran's last 4 did stay under the number. The Rams are 7-2 to the under in their last 9 themselves. I'm going to purchase the 0.5 point, buy it up, and take the Rams plus 7 and the under 45.5 in that game. And before we go ahead and move on, just want to take another quick timeout and welcome you to the show. Got some lines of personal leans out for NFL Week 16. We are getting down to the nitty-gritty here. Season almost wrapping up here. But before we go ahead and dive into some more of that, I just want to quickly remind you to check me out once again on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage, where we went 5-3 yesterday in our premium selections on Sunday. We're also hitting at 64%? Hang on, sorry about that, guys. We're hitting at 64% in our last 11 daily double package plays on that site. We do daily premium picks on that website beginning at just $1.99 per month. And, I'll explain to you at the end of the program the difference between what I do here on YouTube and what I do on my Patreon page. If you want to check out my current record, you can do that for free right now. All you have to do is click the link in the description section below. Once again, that is patreon.com/BrockPage. All right, let's go ahead and dive back into some more free lines of personal leans right here on YouTube. All starts Eastern Standard Time. And on deck, we've got the Giants taking on the Redskins, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff in Landover. The Skins are the 2.5-point favorite at home, total at 42. We saw a 0.5-point fade of Washington and movement upward on the total. The Skins open 3, down to 2.5, total open 40, up to 42. 56% are leaning Washington, 84% toward the over. Right now, the G-Men are plus $1.15 on the money line. Now, the G-Men have covered just 40% of their games in their last 10. They've also dropped 6 out of their last 7 on the road. They rank in the bottom 10 in scoring, bottom 10 in yards per play. They've had really tough losses to the likes of the Jets, the Lions, and the Cardinals. They rank in the bottom 5 in points allowed, bottom 3 in defensive time of possession. Now, Washington on the other side, believe it or not, winners in 2 out of their last 4. They also went 3-1 against the spread in those 4 games. They ranked 12th in pass yards allowed, and they scored 27 points or more in 2 out of their last 3. Now, total-wise, Washington's 3-2 to the over in their last 5. The Giants are 5-2 to the over in their last 7, and they're also 5-2 to the over when traveling this year. So with all that in mind, I'm going to lean Redskins minus 2.5 in the over 42 in that game. Next matchup, it is going to be New Orleans taking on the Titans, and that's going to be a 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff in that matchup there. New Orleans, they're the 1.5-point favorite, total at 51. We saw a 0.5-point move toward New Orleans and movement upward on the total. Now, keep in mind, I'm recording this on Monday, so New Orleans still has to play their Monday night game here tonight. But anyway, New Orleans open as the 1-point favorite, up to minus 1.5. Total open 50.5, up to 51. 75% are leaning Saints, 66% shaded toward the under. Right now, the Titans are plus 105 on the money line. The Titans also rank in the bottom 5 in offensive time of possession, bottom 10 in pass yards allowed. A couple more things to add about Tennessee. They're in the bottom 5 in home passing, bottom 5 in home pass yards allowed. Now, the Saints on the other side, 8-2 straight up in their last 10, 5-1 against the spread when traveling. They rank in the top 10 in road scoring, top 10 in points allowed on the road as well. 3 out of New Orleans' last 4 did get over the number. Meanwhile, Tennessee 7-1 to the over in their last 8. I'm going to lean Saints minus 1.5 in the over 51 in that contest. Next matchup, it is going to be Steelers, Jets, 1 o'clock New York. The Steelers are the 3-point favorite on the road, total at 38.5. We saw a 0.5-point fade of Pittsburgh and movement downward on the total. The Steelers open 3.5 down to minus 3. Total open 39 down to 38.5. 67% are leaning Pittsburgh, 81% shaded toward the under. Right now the Jets are plus $1.40 on the money line. The Jets have also failed to cover in their last 3 straight. They've covered the number in just 3 out of their last 9 games as well. They rank in the bottom 5 in scoring, bottom 3 in rushing. They're just 3-4 against the spread at home, bottom 10 in pass yards allowed at home as well. Now Pittsburgh on the other side, 7-2 straight up in their last 9, 4-2 against the spread when traveling. Pittsburgh ranks in the top 10 in points allowed, top 5 in pass yards allowed. They're also 6-0 to the under on the road this year, 11-3 to the under overall for this season. Meanwhile, the Jets 5-2 to the under at home. I'm going to lean Pittsburgh minus 3 and the under 38.5 in that contest. Next game, it is going to be Bengals taking on the Dolphins. That's going to be a 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff in Miami. The Dolphins are the 1-point favorite, total at 46.5. We saw a 2-point fade of Miami and movement upward on the total. The Dolphins open 3 down to minus 1. Total open 45.5 up to 46.5. 61% are leaning Miami, 89% shaded toward the over. Right now, the Bengals are plus 102 on the money line. They're also just 1-13 straight up on the year, 5-9 against the spread. They failed to cover against the likes of Cleveland, Jacksonville, and Arizona, just to name a few. They are dead last in scoring, dead last in rush yards allowed. Meanwhile, Miami, 2-1 against the spread in their last three. They've also successfully covered the point spread 70% of the time in their last 10 games. They also scored 20 points or more in 7 out of their last 9 as well. Total-wise, Cincinnati, ironically, 9-5 to the under thus far in the year, 6-1 to the under when traveling. I'm going to lean toward the Miami Dolphins -1 and the under 46.5 in that contest. Next game, it is going to be Panthers taking on the Colts, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff in Indianapolis. The Colts are the 6.5-point favorite, total at 46.5. Saw a 0.5 point move toward Indy and movement upward on the total. The Colts open 6 up to 6.5. Total open 46 up to 46.5. 60% are leaning Panthers, 81% shaded toward the over. Right now, Carolina's plus 225 on the money line. They've also lost their last 6 straight. They went 1-5 against the spread in those 6 games. They rank in the bottom 10 in offensive yards per play, bottom 3 in points allowed, bottom 3 in rush yards allowed. They've lost to Atlanta twice and Washington this year. They also rank in the bottom 10 in road offensive time of possession, bottom 3 in points allowed on the road. Indy, on the other side, they've successfully covered the number in 3 out of their last 4. They're 4-3 straight up at home, top 10 in rushing, top 10 in offensive time of possession. They're also ranking in the top 10 in rush yards allowed, top 10 in pass yards allowed at home. Total-wise, Indy's 4-2 to the over in their last 6, 5-2 to the over at home. Meanwhile, 4 out of Carolina's last 4 got over the number. They're also 80% to the over in their last 10. I'm going to purchase the 0.5 point, slide it down, and take the Colts -6 and the over 46.5 in that contest. Next matchup, it is going to be Baltimore taking on the Browns, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff in Cleveland. The Ravens are the 10-point favorite on the road, total 48. Saw a 1.5 point move toward Baltimore and movement downward on the total. The Ravens opened 8.5 up to -10. Total opened 49 down to 48. 67% are leaning Baltimore, 68% shaded toward the over. Right now, the Browns are plus 390 on the money line. The Brownies have lost 2 out of their last 3. They've also covered just 30% of their games in their last 10. They rank in the bottom 5 in rush yards allowed, 21st in scoring. They failed to cover against the likes of Arizona, Pittsburgh, and Denver. They're also just 3-4 against the spread on their home turf. Baltimore on the other side, red hot, hottest team in the NFL. Winners of their last 10 straight, top 3 in scoring, top 3 in rushing, top 5 in points allowed. Baltimore 4-3 to the over in their last 7, 5-2 to the over when traveling. Cleveland 3-1 to the over in their last 4 themselves, 4-3 to the over at home. I'm going to lean toward the road chalk in this one. Give me Baltimore -10 and the over 48 in that contest. Next game, it is going to be Jags taking on the Falcons, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff in Atlanta. The Falcons are the 7.5 point favorite at home, total 45.5. We saw a 1 point move toward Atlanta and movement downward on the total. The Falcons opened 6.5 up to -7.5. Total open 46 down to 45.5. 59% are leaning Falcons, 87% shaded toward the over. Right now, the Jags are plus 275 on the money line. Jacksonville ranks in the top 10 in road rushing, top 3 in road offensive time of possession. They're also top 10 in pass yards allowed on the road. Meanwhile, the Falcons, losers in 5 out of their 7 games at home. They rank in the bottom 10 in points allowed, bottom 10 in yards allowed per play. And Atlanta, not very good in many different categories as well. Bottom 10 in home scoring, bottom 3 in home rushing. And when it comes to the total, 5 out of Atlanta's last 8 stayed under the number. They're also 5-2 to the under at home. Meanwhile, Jacksonville, 2-1 to the under in their last 3 themselves. I'm going to lean Jacksonville plus 7.5 and the under 45.5 in that game. All right, let's go ahead and dive into our afternoon slate. It is going to be Raiders taking on the Chargers, 4:05 Eastern kickoff in Los Angeles. The Chargers are the 5.5 point favorite, total 45.5. We saw a 1 point fade of Los Angeles and movement downward on the total. The Chargers open 6.5 down to -5.5. Total open 47 down to 45.5. 62% of the consensus are leaning toward the Chargers, 53% shaded toward the over. Right now the Raiders are plus 215 on the money line. Now the Raiders are right in the middle of a 4-game losing streak. They also failed to cover the point spread in their last 5 straight. They rank in the bottom 10 in scoring, bottom 5 in points allowed. They failed to cover against the likes of Jacksonville, the Jets, and Cincinnati this year. They also rank in the bottom 5 in pass yards allowed, winners in just 1 out of their 6 games on the road this year, and they rank dead last in points allowed on the road. Now the Chargers on the other side, top 5 in passing, top 5 in yards per play, top 5 in pass yards allowed. They've had successful covers of the point spread against Green Bay and Chicago this year. Now 5 out of LA's last 7 at home did get under the number. Meanwhile, Oakland 4 wanted the under in their last 5. I'm going to lean Chargers minus 5.5 and the under 45 and a hook in that game. Next matchup, Lions taking on the Broncos for